Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. As always, thank you for joining me. If you could, hit the subscribe button down below and let's get right to it. Now, have you seen this story that's going around about what the Trump administration is trying to do to servers' tips? Yeah, that's right. They're trying to take tips away from people that make $2.13 a freaking hour. It's bad enough that, they don't get, sometimes people don't get tipped what they should get tipped after doing a really good job for their people. But the Trump administration is looking to take away those tips. They are going to leave it up to the discretion of the owner of the restaurant on whether or not they get any tips. Not left up to me, the customer who comes in. And let me tell you, if this rule passes, I will no longer tip. Tipping will cease to exist by me if this rule is approved. But the Trump Labor Department is looking to change the rules on tipping to allow the owner of the restaurant or establishment to decide what, if any, tips the servers get. Now, that already happens, with credit card tips and things like that. That's why I try to always tip with cash if I can. But now, now they're looking into taking money directly from the server's pocket. Now, I understand that some restaurants already have rules in place that kind of work as I don't know what you would call it, almost like a commune in a way, where they take all the tips for the service, and then they split it up equally among the wait staff and the people in the back and things like that. And I have no problem with trying to, send some of the money back to the people in the back. I get that. Okay? To the bus boys and the people in the kitchen, I get that. But what I don't understand is how hostesses and servers are going to get the shaft when these people do all the work when it comes to delivering the food, making sure the customer is happy with their food, getting them refills and things like that, all for $2.13 an hour, and they live on those damn tips. You can't live on $2.13 an hour. So if this is going to happen, two things are going to happen. Like I said, one, I will no longer tip. Two, the minimum wage for a server needs to be bumped up to the federal minimum wage. Because if you're no longer going to be able to tip without the owner stealing the tips, then what's the freaking point? My wife was a server for a short time in a Mexican restaurant here where we live. And she lived on those tips. The tips were the only thing that gave her any money. Her weekly wages were trash. $2.13 an hour. $2.13 an hour, sometimes 30 plus hours a week. And that's poverty wage. Especially if you take the tips away. Now I understand people are like, oh, well, you're supposed to be, if you're a server, you should be in college or a teenager or something. But that's not how it works. I know a lot of servers who are in their 20s and 30s, even in their 40s or older. And they live on those tips because they are good at their job. And these sons of bitches want to come up and take them away? Give them to the already rich business owner? That ain't right. It's morally bankrupt. It's complete cowardice right there on the part of the businesses if they allow this to happen. And the thing is, a lot of the big businesses, the big restaurant chains, are pushing for these things. So instead of spending the money on their restaurants to better their restaurants or to better their employees and their wait staff and their kitchen staff, instead of spending money to help them out and make their lives better, they're over there spending all their money on lobbyists to convince the Labor Department to get rid of this rule. And the way it is now, if someone leaves you a cash tip, it's your tip unless there are other rules written, and where it says there's a small percentage that goes back to the back house people. But those are usually there again. It's usually what comes off is done off of tips left by credit card, not by cash. So if you ask me, this is just pathetic. It's thievery at its highest, And I feel sorry for the servers here in America getting $2.13 an hour, and now you have to live with the possibility that the sons of bitches in Washington are going to steal your tips and give them to your already wealthy business owner boss. I can't believe that this is the path we're going on, but one thing we have to remember here is elections have consequences. Do you really think this would even be being considered by a Hillary Clinton or a Bernie Sanders presidency? Nope. Would it have been considered under a third Barack Obama presidency? Nope. But is it being considered under a Republican Trump presidency? Sure is. And that takes me on to his proposed budget that he delivered to Washington yesterday. And let me tell you, is it a doozy? And the Republicans showing support for it or showing their hypocrisy. The budget that he delivered to Congress the other day, or yesterday, and is getting rave reviews from a number of Republicans, including people like Paul Ryan. One, explodes the debt, adds trillions to the debt, or to the deficits, adding to the debt. It increases military spending, and cuts spending on almost everything else, but there's a number of little kickbacks here and there that will be raising the deficits. So let's put this together here. He just passed a tax bill that will add $1.4 trillion to the deficit, to our deficits over the next 10 years. And now he's adding a budget that will add trillions more on top of that over the next few years. But okay, Barack Obama had a number of budgets that were well higher than they should have been. I thought on the effect on the deficit and the debt, and I made that clear a lot of times to the people I knew and on some of the blogs I wrote and some of the videos I tried to make that nobody ever watched. But at the end of the day, the Republicans would always squawk back and say, no, we can't pass anything that adds a dime to the deficit. And as of yesterday, the GOP proved, once again, without a shadow of a doubt, they only care about deficits when a Democrat is in office. That is it, and that is all. They cared because President Obama was in office and that it was a Democrat. That's all they cared about. And now that he's gone and it's Donald Trump, to hell with fiscal responsibility. They don't believe in that anymore. They never did. So to the GOP, the hypocrites that they are, either you shoot down this budget in its entirety, or you prove what everyone already knows, that you're a bunch of hypocrites that don't actually believe in the crap you spew. How do I know this? I don't know. You got the control of Congress and you never tried to impeach President Obama after you campaigned on it for so damn long. So, what else is in this particular budget? Well, it breaks a few promises. 3 of them to be exact. 1, it cuts Medicare. 2, it cuts funding for Medicaid. And, get this, it makes cuts to Social Security and raises the Social Security minimum age. All things he promised to not touch. All things he promised to leave as is or make better. As for Medicare, you paid for that. You pay for that through your taxes every single day you go to work, every time you get a paycheck, every hour you work for a business, you are earning money that goes to Medicare. Same thing with Social Security. Every day you go to work, money's being put in the bank, basically for you, for when you're older, in Social Security. And Social Security is set to be able to pay out every dime it owes for the next 20 years. And if we would raise the cap to $500,000 on Social Security taxable income, it could be solvent and perfect for the next 100 to 130 years. Instead, they're going to make cuts to it. Cutting things that you paid for, that you already breaking the promise that our government has made to us to ensure that people, when they get older, they have insurance to be able to go to the doctor and afford their medications and their Social Security so they can afford their bills. And the GOP supports this, and Donald Trump supports this. All three of those, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, were promises by Trump to be left alone. That he would not harm them in any way, would not reduce their effectiveness or reduce the amount of money that you receive from them. But instead, he's set to make cuts on the care side, not on the provider side, but on your actual care. He's made cuts to that in his proposed budget. Medicaid, he's wanting to cut that. Medicaid is something that those of us that are disabled are a lot of times require to be able to see a doctor. Up until the ACA came around, regular insurance we couldn't even get it. And now they're talking about getting rid of the ACA too. So what do? Anyhow, that's the video I have for you today. I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you down the road.